And gentlemen, we are back with Season 2, Episode 5, Freebird! An episode so vacuous I only have one page of notes on the whole thing. I'm sorry, there's not a lot to say here. It's like, okay, so, Cassandra's irritable about them stopping all the time. Okay, that's strange. The cart has a lot of mechanisms up front. Did you notice that? Okay. They say they lose a wheel, so they don't have a jack, so they're going to show up who's strongest, and then Shorty's gone forever. And all of this is cool. Shorty's gone. That's the important part. I think if we just move on from this point and never come back to it, then everything is better forever, right? Right? We all agree? Then I immediately paused. You had to wait till I hit record, didn't you? Who lets us know? Thank you for the sub. I'll put that down for the two Jedis and for FF16. So, yeah. Okay, so Shorty's gone and there's tea. Ominous tea. And, yeah. Like, you know, as weird as this is going to sound, I was really afraid this episode was going to be even worse than it was going to be. Don't mistake me, I'm not a huge fan of this episode, but, like, as they offer the tea, I was figuring Rapunzel would be like, sweet, let's drink the tea, it's going to be great. And then Cassandra would be like, no, you don't understand. And then they'd fight and argue, and it'd be cool. But instead, Rapunzel's the one who's like, eh. And I like that Rapunzel at least has enough awareness to engage at least two brain cells in there and realize that, you know, these two totally random strangers in the middle of the woods are probably a little bit sus. So, okay, cool. But no, it turns out that they've already drunk the tea, so and then they offer them the cure immediately, which is weird, actually. And then Rapunzel's like, wait, I've got it. Let's go just be birds for a while. And then they do a musical number. Do we are birds? Wait, I don't think that's the song. It's more like... I actually don't want to sing it. I am legitimately afraid of being copywronged because Leonard Skinner is notorious about that kind of thing. But anyways, Freebird reference. We're walking. But then they start to turn into birds. So they come back. Now, I know this is shocking, but it turns out the two random strangers in fanciful outfits in the middle of the woods who are serving tea to people are in fact evil. I know. Cool. What's really weird is they're so evil, they have to actually say it twice. Did you catch that? It's the weirdest misstep in the whole episode, because it's like, oh my god, they're evil, and then they're like, yes, we're evil, and it's like, it's just a 1-2 punch of verifying that they're evil, and it actually feels like one of those scenes were supposed to be cut originally, and they just didn't, and so both scenes are there. It's very strange. Anyways. So. I am glad that they remembered Cassandra's voice actress can sing, by the way. That's a nice touch. So, then we have an interesting character section. Cassandra rants at her about how she dropped everything and put away her life and is all trying to help you find your destiny. Hate that theme. Why aren't you taking... You know, I'm taking this seriously. Why aren't you? And at first, I was like, oh god, this is going to actually turn into this big thing, and this big dividing gap in between these two characters, right? Nope. Instead, it actually becomes the exact opposite. Credit to you, episode. Because Rapunzel admits, quite honestly, that she's scared. And we get the inclination and the implication that this whole time, one of the reasons she's been taking her time on this trip is very specifically because she doesn't want to reach the end of it. And that's logical. And that makes sense, not just for Rapunzel in particular, but just in general. They have absolutely no idea what's at the other end of this trail. Hell, we don't know. It's probably that castle from the first episode, but that doesn't mean anything. So, who knows what the hell this is about? So that actually works really, really well. And it's a nice character beat, which is then immediately interrupted by the threat of the week. And let me be clear. The reason I'm so down on this episode is because these two people, mother and father, they're a threat of the week. They are. Copy-paste. They show up out of nowhere. We will never hear about them again. They never showed up before this point. And they're just better than us for just long enough to threaten us until we decide that it's time for us to win, in which case we do. They are, right? Like they're a threat of the week. It's why I'm so down on the episode. I'm gonna repeat myself 3 more times. That way this will pad out this runtime, because we really need to pad out the runtime. Like, even the fight sequence is kind of weird in the way it's storyboarded. Like, there's this bit where, like, all right, we're free. And then they stay as birds for, like, a weirdly long time. And, like, there's even a scene where they're like, oh my god, and they haven't done anything yet. The father's just running around picking up the eggs, and they're just watching him as birds, and it cuts to a shot of them watching him, and you could see eggs surrounding them, like in grabbing range, and they haven't gone to grab the eggs and actually use them and get the bots to show up. And so, like, it's really bizarre how this whole sequence happens. And then, like, the evil woman turns into a hawk to fight Cassandra, and then they fight back. And then they free some of them, but then they don't free other things. This whole sequence is very, very strange. There's some good flying animation here. They use a trick earlier when they're flying through the horses, where it looks really up close because it's actually a 3D render of the ground as they're doing it. And if you pay attention, there's no distance there, so they can't actually see into the distance. So that's actually kind of a really cool little thing that they do. It's a trick, but it's a very well done trick. And then, like, there's one egg left. This came really close to being an awesome moment, because they realize there's one egg left. Rapunzel looks at it for, like, maybe a third of a second before immediately breaking on it. Cassandra's in mid-sentence when she's already using the egg on... When Rapunzel's already using the egg on Cassandra. That's a great individual moment. And then when Cassandra realizes what Rapunzel has just done, she's just... Oh my god. It's a great moment. It shows how connected these two are. It shows their friendship. It's very in character for Rapunzel. It has some dramatic power. It is immediately ruined by the scene directly after it, because then Shorty shows up. Actually, no, I'm sorry. That's not true. There's actually one other scene. So first, then Cassandra goes over in a rage, destroys the teapot, which then causes them all to go away. Never explained. And then Shorty shows up, who is a peacock, who lays an egg, which then cures... No joke, and I mean this, I actually stopped taking notes at a certain point in this scene, and in my notes, all I have is just, like 5 or 6 question marks. I don't ask much from my fiction. Okay, that's not true. I ask a lot from my fiction. But, you know, one thing that I don't necessarily need my fiction to be hyper-realistic. But, what? Like, this is wrapped up so fast, it's kind of weird. This feels like this should have been, like, a part 1 of 2 kind of a deal. Imagine for a moment if Rapunzel had stayed a bird at the end of this. And so they keep her with them, and now they move on to the next adventure, at which point they are now going to be trying to find a cure. Instead of just magically having Shorty, magically lay an egg, somehow, never explained, why he's the one that can lay the eggs. That magically is one of the magical eggs that magically reduces the magic. This is one of the weirdest Deus Ex Machinas I've seen in fiction. And not the worst, just the weirdest. And let's be clear, this is a Deus Ex Machina. And it wraps up everything in like 2 minutes. Actually, I think I'm exaggerating. I think it's actually less than 2 minutes. This could have been a great moment. We've got a good opening character beat, as Cassandra's starting to get irritated at Rapunzel. We've got a good middle character beat, as both of them open up to each other. Cassandra's just frustrated at all this crap, and Rapunzel admits that she's scared. And then we have a good finale beat, as now she's thinking, okay, now I've got to help you, I've got to take care of you. You've just sacrificed yourself, your identity for me. That's powerful. And it's completely ruined by everything else around it. Yeah, this, like I said, there's several things they could have done with this to move forward. And the easiest answer by far is to just keep her a bird. Now, I don't know what the next episode is, so I don't know if that lines up with what they had planned for the next episode. But you can't tell me they couldn't have planned around that to begin with. Make the next episode about fixing the bird form. And yeah, those wonderfully expressionless eyes, that was a great touch. That was great, especially given she just kind of looking around. Like Cassandra's like, no, no, and Rapunzel's just... They could have done something with this, and instead, it's just... One of the biggest complaints most people have about Star Wars 8, The Last Jedi, Episode 8, is that there's something called Planet Side Quest. I think I technically coined that term because I heard a lot of people use it after I said it, but a lot of people use the same terminology. Planet Side Quest, right? They just go off and they do a side quest to come back. And that sucks, but the problem is, it's not the side quest itself that was really the problem. It was the fact that it was so vacuous and so meaningless. Yeah, exactly, Dakota. It had nothing to do with anything. And here's this episode. Not that I want to compare this episode to The Last Jedi, but you get the overall idea, right? It's just there. Do something with it. Right? Make it relevant. Make it significant. Make it thematically significant. Make it plot significant. Make it character significant. Make it relevant. Now, I did notice what Trihexia points out. There is a tremendous amount of magic outside the boundaries, which could imply a lot, actually. I don't think it does. I don't think they've thought about the world building that much, to be quite honest with you. As we've already talked about, the world building in this series is not great. But if I was inclined to think about that, I would think that that's deliberate. And you could go one of two directions with that. Either there's something outside of the walls, cough, cough, the castle they're going towards, which is, for lack of a better way to put it, generating magic. And thus there's more, like the closer you get to the source of this magical artifact, the more magical crap is around it, right? You could also kind of go the inverse of that. In other words, magical artifacts generate magical things around them in general, which means Corona used to have a bunch of magic and now doesn't, because they got rid of it 18 years ago when they got rid of the flower. Or, this is my personal favorite, there has been a concentrated effort by multiple people, probably from both of these connected kingdoms, like the people Kieran and Twitface work for, to stamp down on magic in the area for whatever purpose, whatever it is that they're afraid of with regards to the object they're searching, right? So in other words, Corona should have magic and doesn't because there's an active effort to try and root it out anytime it shows up. This would also explain the gray hats earlier. That's probably the direction I'd go with that. You can even tie this in little tidbits, like maybe the mother and the father used to live in Corona before they were shuffled away. Our kind were not wanted there. Don't need to explain what that means. Just that little tidbit, something like that. Either way, I did want to mention one last thing. I know that this show has cartoon physics, and not to read too much into it. However, I also have to point out that this is now the second time Rapunzel has shown superhuman strength. Yes, I know they wrap her hair around the tree, but that's just to give it a little bit of leverage. She still has to pull full tilt on that to lift the carriage, which she does effortlessly. I'm only pointing this out because this is the second time the show has shown us that Rapunzel has literally superhuman strength, and I tend to pay attention to those kind of things. Yeah, make Xavier a mage. That's why he knows so much. That's why he's so connected to so many of these old legends. It's because that used to be his job, and he elected to decide to go ahead and... Yeah, no, I'm a blacksmith. I work with metals. It's cool. We're cool here. Everything's cool here. Food for thought. Either way, that's it. There's not much here. There's not much meat on these bones, which is appropriate given all the bird braining going around. What are we thinking? Oh yeah, the other benefit of keeping her for a bird longer, It's another bit of merch you can keep selling. I mean, you designed the bird form of each of these people. How about instead of, like, this stupid tea that turns you into a bird and then the stupid eggs that cure you, there's just an artifact that's the switch, right? Boop, bird, boop, human, boop, bird, boop, human. Relevance? This could then be part of their kit going forwards. This could be something where, like, they could actually have, like, oh no, we've got to deal with this thing. I can't get in there. I've got an idea. Boop, and now they're a bird. I mean, there's potential here. But there's not realization of that potential. I'm going to argue for a green here. It's the only thing that pulls it up to green in my mind is the 3 character beats. And that's it. Everything to do with Shorty and, like, the egg and the cure and the teapot? Huh? Like, I'm sorry, if you're going to do nonsense, you have to do good nonsense, and this does not qualify. I'm going to go with green here, I'm sorry. That's just... Good character beats, completely ruined by everything else in the episode. It's okay, the next episode is very called Vigor? The Visionary. It is definitely a step up from the Forest of No Return. Oh my god. Stupid Forest. And I also have to give the episode less negatives for the fact that they didn't dive down the drama hole, which they totally could have. Vigor, that makes even less sense. So we'll see what Vigor is up to in just a few minutes.